Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michaels. Welcome. We have a great show lined up for tonight. I am stoked. This is one of those shows where I was waiting for, and on a whim, I reached out to Ari, and he's known as Ari in the Air on YouTube. I put a link in the description. I want to encourage you to go immediately and subscribe. And I'm going to say that like 4 or 5 times during this show. You need to go and subscribe to his channel. And there's a reason for it. You will be pleasantly surprised at the quality of the craftsmanship of his YouTube videos. I don't want him to I don't want him to stop making the videos. That's what I told him just before we started the show. So tonight's show is simply to get him a bunch of subscribers. So if you don't know Ari's channel, now you do. We're having some moderator problems. Sean is having a hard time. Ross Gasaway, he's my pinch hitter. I reached out to him, no stranger to the show. So he's covering from a undisclosed location, deep in some cavern somewhere. Spelunking.
I never know where I am either.
Yeah.
I literally never know where I am the next day. So.
Just wake up and it's like, oh, well, there's the sun.
Pretty much.
Let's follow it. Yeah, I bet you're glad you left right now from all that snow.
I'm glad I never got to see the snow, but all my friends are sitting in 4 or 5 inches of snow in North Carolina right now.
Oh,
yeah, couldn't do it.
You know, my wife really likes snow, but snow is like Justin Bieber. It's cute at first, but then you just want to send it back to Canada. Tough crowd tonight.
As long as I see it a little bit, then I get to go away from it, I'm good.
Little bit of, let's do the order of business tonight. Order of business, our show is sponsored by Para-Orange Products. Paraorangeproducts.com. If you're interested in buying some stuff for your paragliding addiction, we'll call it, go to paraorangeproducts.com. You can find all kinds of neat stuff to protect your gear, to bag your gear, and to enjoy your flying. So I got a special message. Larry couldn't be with us tonight. He's getting some kind of oral surgery done. He said he's getting some tooth stuff removed. And so from now till January 1st, all orders, excluding wings, will receive a 20% discount by using the promo code December on the rebate page. You definitely want to go and buy stuff from there now because it's 20% off. All wings are $200 off plus free shipping if you're in the United States of America. And you get a take-along bag for the appropriate size, a low-velocity windsock, a PPG knee board, or riser bag with wing purchase. So check out paraorangeproducts.com and reach out to Larry at paraorangeproducts.com if you have questions about that. Without further delay, Ari is a acro pilot, but he also does some regular flying, and he shared the adventure video is what sucked me into his channel. And so we're going to talk to him tonight about all things flying. Is there anything else that I need to know? Acro?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a multi-sport athlete, so I'm a professional skier, highliner, paraglide pilot, and a filmmaker. Okay.
No hang gliders in there?
Nope, never been under a hang. Oh, I guess I have. I have had a very short flight on a hang glider. I flew like 50 feet while we were kiting.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did one little backyard lesson with a hang glider one day.
Who let you do it?
My friend Eric Rasmussen.
That guy is cool.
Yeah, he's cool.
So he's like, yeah, here, go ahead, strap in.
I was like kiting it. I was kiting it. I had the harness on. And I was kind of kiting it around, and the plan wasn't to fly at all. I just kind of like, figured I could just take a couple steps and hop, and yeah, that thing, I did a little like 50-foot flight.
That's pretty rad. Okay, I've got some questions for you. And at some point, we're going to take some questions from the chat. By the way, if you're logging into the chat, congratulations. You're watching the best show on YouTube right now. Nothing better than talking about flying, right? I love it. Okay. How did you get into paragliding?
How did I get into paragliding? So the first time I ever saw a paraglider in person, we were at Cliffside, Washington at this site, and we were making this film called the Paraglide Rope Swing to Base Jump, where we had rigged up this with John Malmberg with Bam Bam. So Super Frenchie was the base jumper. Bam Bam was the stunt coordinator. Daniel Randall was another pilot out there. And Daniel gave me my first tandem that day while we were waiting for the wind to be right. And I filmed the stunt from a tandem later that day. And yeah, that was my first flight in a paraglider. And the thing I remember most about that first flight with Daniel was that we launched, and like it wasn't even 60 seconds before he was like, "All right, you want to fly this thing?" And I was like, okay. And I took the brakes, and we were like only like 100 feet off the ground at the most. And like I flew it for like maybe 3/4 of one pass across the ridge before I was like, yeah, I think you should be flying this thing. But yeah, that was how I saw paragliding for the first time. And then Daniel is a really generous, amazingly generous person, and he offered to let me come out to the beach where he was teaching some students, and he put me under a Gin Bobcat 16-meter speed wing and taught me how to kite. And by the end of that summer, I was teaching lessons for him, teaching people how to kite. And yeah, it was pretty full throttle. You know, I grew up skiing and was a professional skier. Still I am a professional skier, but there was a couple winters here in Oregon where we had really dry, warm winters, and I learned how to highline in the fall that preceded those winters. And so those winters I really went super deep into highlining and got really far into that.
Okay, let me stop you right there. If you don't know what highlining is, you take this strap and you literally just connect it over a giant chasm, and then you walk across it barefoot with a little strap to your
So highlining is a type of slacklining where we're high off the ground and we use redundant slackline systems for safety, and there's a lot of rigging involved, there's a lot of visioning involved, and then the actual walking is a lot like slacklining, but we make longer high lines than slack lines could ever be. You know, as you can see on my YouTube channel, we just did the United States record. It's 3,000 foot long high line in Moab, 700 feet high. And
do you know who? I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you know who Tucker Gott is?
Yeah, I do, of course.
You know, you're in his video because he was motoring around you guys.
No, I'd love to see it though.
During that day, I don't know if you got. So he's been on this base kick, doing some base jumping stuff, and I think I'll have to go back and watch the video, but I think
that was about 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. Yep. And so at that same time frame, you were there. I don't know if the guys were there longer than you or whatever, but he's like, "Oh, I got to watch out for this slack line." In his video, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he's right there! He's with Ari in the air."
Yeah, that's funny. The slack line was actually so long that we had to call the FAA and get a NOTAM written for that, because like we've seen aircraft fly through that canyon all the time, and it's so long and so high, and it's only 1 inch wide. It's really hard to see, even when you're walking it like from one direction. If you're walking it into the sunshine, you just can't even see the line after some point. So we had high visibility flagging tapes every 4 connections, and yeah, we did our best. But realistically, you know, how many pilots look at the NOTAM every day, especially the hotshot guy who's going to fly super fast down through the canyon? So it's like a real thing. I guess we're really good at slacklining. We know that because our line could be hit by an aircraft.
Bro.
Woohoo!
Okay, so what happens when if you lose your balance? You're like, "Oh crap, lost my balance," and
I have a leash. I have a leash on, and it's
Right.
only, like 3.5 feet long. So I just climb back up the leash and stand back up on the line and keep walking.
Is that hard?
I mean, yeah, when you start learning to highline, learning how to stand up on the line is one of the big bottlenecks, one of the big barriers to entry to learn how to walk a highline. But I mean, at this point, I can do that blindfolded backwards and -5 degrees, and yeah, it's like inflating your glider. It's like that's just the beginning.
I can sit in a chair a mile in the air, but I don't know if I could do that.
I know. Same with me.
Yeah, it's a progression, man. It's a progression. You learn to slackline, and then you learn to rig, and then you just spend a lot of time falling off of the damn thing, and then.
Oh man, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah, I'm stoked. Okay, so how did you segue from paragliding? You got some hours, obviously. You got your P2, P3 down the line, but how did you segue into acro, and how long did it take?
I mean, how did I segue into acro? Well, I think that I wanted to do acro before I even knew how to paraglide. Some of the first videos I ever saw was Raul Rodriguez doing what is now I know to be like a spin stop and repeated, basically just like taking a high pendulum angle, going negative with one side of the glider so it goes 180, and then just coming back under it, and then doing that over and over. And it's like a half pipe in the sky. It's like a perfect half pipe. And I saw that and I thought, oh my God, the sensation of that must just be absolutely unreal. So I think that I kind of went into paragliding wanting to do acrobatics. I came from skiing. I'm a professional freestyle skier. I like to go off big jumps. That's my specialty, is big jumps, big lines, powder, cliffs, flips. And so paragliding, yeah, the moment I realized you could do a flip on a paraglider, I wanted to do a flip. That's kind of how I got into slacklining too. I saw someone do a flip off of a slackline, and I said, oh, I got to learn how to slackline so I can do a flip off of it.
Oh,
it's just it's just one more substrate for a flip. One more delivery device. But now getting into acro, I think that it started with like at Pine Mountain, where I fly, that's my home site. The group of pilots that I got in with, they do as big of wingovers as the glider will do, and they do them really nice, like all the time. And so I saw that and I thought, oh man, I really want to do big wingovers. That looks amazing. And, I started learning to fly on a 20-meter freestyle 2. That was the first glider that I had. And it was way too small. I didn't have nearly enough altitude. I didn't have nearly enough hours to be flying that thing. And it made it really hard for me to learn. But then I actually had all my equipment stolen. And yeah. And all of my equipment getting stolen ended up being like this blessing in disguise, because I then bought a 26-meter Sigma, a Sigma 6 from my friend in Mexico. And I had lent this harness from this guy Ryan here in Bend. And with the 26-meter glider, all of a sudden I had all this altitude that I wasn't used to. And so I had to then pit my courage against all of this altitude, and I started pulling on strings, and I started doing wingovers that would make the glider completely and totally collapse out in front of me. And and essentially I learned doing wingovers in the way that you shouldn't learn wingovers, which is courage. Courage to just pull more brake than you should be, and ending up getting a much bigger pendulum and a much bigger reaction out of the glider than you should at that point. And so, which is funny now, because like I'm helping people learn wingovers, and I'm like, okay, this is how I learned it, and this is not how you should learn it. Like, you want to learn like gradually, and I kind of didn't do it gradually. I just and to do really big wingovers, there is a level of commitment. There is a level of courage that you have to take it to the next level, because there is like, you can do like a moderately big wingover, but to really take yourself up and over the glider and have the leading edge down underneath you and horizontal, it does take another level of commitment. So that's kind of how it started for me. And then the next thing that I did was I started traveling in paragliding. The first place I went was to Morocco. And the Moroccan pilots, they really they wanted to do acro, but they didn't have the altitude, but that didn't stop them. So they were just doing acro low on these just ragged out gliders. Like the acro pilots from the Alps would go to Morocco in the winter, and they would take their old, just haggard gliders, and they would just give them to these Moroccan pilots, because the Moroccan guys, like, the currency is shit. It's like they're paragliding. They're not making money in Morocco. They're paragliding. So they brought in these gliders, and the things just had holes in them, and the guys are still doing like misty flip landings and really pushing it close to the ground. And after that, we went to Chamonix on the same trip. We went to Chamonix, and we went to this place called Plateau des Ages, which is in the bottom of the Chamonix Valley, and it works like a Orgagna. It's a bottleneck for the valley wind. So in the afternoons, when the valley winds really develop strong, at the bottom of the valley, the wind is getting sucked in, and it's just hitting this one mountain that's in the middle of the valley. So you actually launch miles away on this very shallow slope that's super scary to fly your acro glider there, because you like fly 50 feet over houses for like concerning amount of time.
I've seen
and
this.
Then you cross over the valley and you get onto the mountain, and it's just crazy soaring. Like, the soaring is just like you spec out over and over, and you actually fly out over the city, and you do acro over the city, which is, it's kind of nerve wracking. But that was the first acro site that I'd ever seen, and I realized, almost $10, and I realized
$10.
Yeah, it was almost. I realized that that's what acro is. Acro is not just being bold and being reckless, but it's actually having a lot of restraint and knowing when it is that you can safely practice acrobatics, and knowing your reserve systems, and being able to have free refills. And yeah, after that, we went to Orgagna, and it rained for 3 days, but I saw the potential. And then the next year I went to Iquique, Chile, and that's where it really started for me. I had done my first 7 stalls on tow here in Oregon behind Ryan Grizel's Acro tow boat. I did my first 7 stalls, and then I went to Iquique, and I probably did 150 and did my first 30 helicopters on the same trip. And at that point, it was totally on. I came back and was doing helicopters at my local sites, and had a pretty good idea of what kind of altitude it was that I was looking for. And at the end of that summer, feeling pretty comfortable with helicopters, was my one and only reserve deployment at Pine Mountain, over the dirt, under a round. And yeah, I guess since then I've gone to Lake Garda and trained some other acrobatics, but still have some healthy respect for how hard the ground is and how quickly it comes up to meet you.
That's like Max Martini. Some of his stuff is just, you're like, you're so good.
He's a very talented pilot, and he gets a lot of practice. He does the site that he learns at. He never has a ton of altitude, but he gets a solid altitude very frequently. So he has a lot of practice.
Yeah, a lot of reps.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So take us through a time maybe when you felt like you were completely out of control. So you're and I'm talking about flying. Maybe you put yourself in a situation, and what did you take away from that? This show is all about learning how to be safer, and
yeah, for sure. Let's see. I think that there's been a couple times flying where I launched into air that I shouldn't have been flying in, which always brings up the old adage, you'd rather be on the ground wishing you're in the sky than in the sky wishing you're on the ground. And that's so true. And it just makes me think of when I was learning to paraglide, my face wasn't quite the windsock that it is now. It's really experienced paraglide pilots. Man, you can just feel it on your face. And if if the puffs are too strong, if the gusts are too strong, if it's kind of erratic, you can just feel it, and you know that you don't want to be flying in it. But as you learn, the problem is that as I learned, coming from the sports that I learned in, I was pretty gung-ho, and I could feel that it was gusty, but I didn't know what the flying experience was like when you're actually flying in that kind of air. So that takes time.
What's up?
Yeah, this is Eric. Eric, this is Airy in the Air on YouTube. Make sure you go and subscribe.
You have the best name ever, except if
I
you
know.
happen to actually be a big fan of the Führer, in which case we have a problem.
Airy in the Air, man. He's on our show.
What's up,
up?
Ross?
Hey, how's it going?
Dude, I feel like I just saw you in Vegas. It feels like so long ago now.
What was that, like a whole 4 or 5 days ago?
It was a whole 4 or 5 days, and I found out the gentleman with the jet truck that we were in the Ferris wheel with that was drinking, he had 17 drinks in 31 minutes, and I didn't know it was possible. I had 3, and I felt like I had done too much. I'd gone too far. And then you drove to the Hoover Dam afterwards. So I don't know if you were on the same parlay as the jet truck guy, but...
Jet truck.
Well, it was a fast trip, which I don't remember, but, No, I was good. I think I had 1, maybe.
It was a fast trip with the jet truck.
We were at the International Council of Air Shows event, and Ross came to visit us because we're there booking air shows for Paradigm and whatnot. And we ended up on a Ferris wheel where they serve all-inclusive booze for 30 minutes around this Ferris wheel. And apparently air show pilots are slightly competitive people. And so the jet truck guy or jet car guy was like, I'm going to win. So he had 17 Malibu and pineapples in 30 minutes. And I didn't see him for the rest of the week. But Ari,
man, that was a good group. That was a hell of a trip, and that bartender could really push out the drinks quick.
He could. But Ari, it's really nice to meet you, and I feel bad interrupting your story. I love your idea of your trip to Regania and everything else. Like one of our team pilots, Kyle, has gone over there a lot, and Manu and David are from our team as well, and they live there. And I'm dying to go. Like my soul hurts not having been there. So it's awesome to meet you.
It's an amazing place to fly.
Yeah, dude. So are you going to and I'm asking Ari, are you going to make this a thing, like a regular trip there, or is it that was it? You went there and learned what you could, and now you're on a mission here.
No, of course, I'd love to be. I think that if you want to be a serious acrobatics pilot, then your choices are pretty limited as to what kind of activity you undertake throughout the year. And if you want to be a serious competitive acrobatics pilot, you basically have to travel around the world. And that looks like Iquique, Organa, Lake Garda, those kind of places. And if you're not able to put in the time and the money to travel, then you better have a really good site to tow, or somehow you can do a bunch of D-bags, or somehow you can ride up the gondola. But yeah, you got to get the altitude and the hours. And I mean, right now I'm really looking forward to flying big XC. This summer was game changing for me in flying cross country.
That's my next question.
And having the background in acrobatics that I do is, it makes it doesn't take all of the fear out of it, but as far as the glider collapsing in front of me, that's not too big of a worry, or a cravat. Those kind of things are things I'm pretty familiar with training acrobatics. But I love to train acro. It's so much fun. I love to pull strings and go fast. But it is like a chore to go to the places that you can legitimately train acrobatics and not be some yahoo just pulling strings really close to the ground. And I've hit the ground hard enough skiing that I know that I don't really want to hit the ground real hard paragliding. And I've already thrown my reserve and hit the dirt.
That's one of my questions.
Doing acrobatics. So it's like,
yeah, what happened with that?
That was a particularly amazing glass off that we actually, Pine Mountain just gets the best glass offs I've ever experienced. And so the day before I threw my reserve, I did a helicopter on my Freestyle 3, and I just did a poor entry and was deciding to, instead of stop the rotation, to try to re-axe the helicopter. And it's really hard to do. You know, I probably have done like 100 helicopters. When you look at it like a professional acrobatics pilot, there are like thousands of helicopters, so they can re-axe it a lot easier. I'm still very much a beginner in acrobatics. And so I was trying to re-axe the heli and ended up just fighting with it too long. And when I decided to pull the plug on the helicopter, I stalled the glider too quickly and my body still had rotational energy. And so it put me into a line twist, had about 360 line twist, not too bad. I had the glider stalled into a really deep tail slide, and I just held the glider in a deep tail slide, and I was just patient, and I just came out of the line twist and then let up on the brakes and flew away. But the next day I did a similar thing, hadn't gotten my lesson yet apparently, and I did a similar poor helicopter entry, boldly trying to re-axe the helicopter, frantically pulling the plug on said helicopter, stalling the glider hastily with rotational energy in my body and harness, and going into a 360 line twist. And at this one, I actually was much more calm. And instead of freezing and just holding the glider in a deep tail slide, I actually wanted to let up on the brakes just a little bit to take it into a more stable tail slide, thinking that I would come out of the line twist faster. And I let up, I don't even know how much, but too much, that the glider, instead of coming out of it, I looked up and the glider just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line twists, and it was just gone. And right in that moment I knew, and it started auto rotating immediately.
Oh God. Yep.
And so I grabbed my reserve handle, and this part, the part of me that's talking now is not the same part of me that grabbed the reserve handle, because the animal that grabbed that reserve handle, oh my God.
The $10 part of you had that.
I played soccer as a kid, but I should have been a baseball pitcher or something, because wow, I chucked the reserve so hard that I watched all the rubber bands snapping off of it. Bow, 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 bow. And I watched the bag open up, and right when the bag opened, the auto-rotating glider came and just swallowed up my reserve. And I just, in that moment, it went from, okay, this is really bad and you got to take care of this, to like, I was like watching the story of my death. Right?
I've lived that life. I know that
little
life.
bit right there. And
yes.
So I have a second reserve, right? So I look to my second reserve handle and I reach down for it. The moment that I get my hands on the reserve handle, I'm feeling the G-force because the glider is auto-rotating like crazy. And as I get my hands on the reserve handle, the first reserve comes out of the lines and just explodes like a bomb. It made this noise that I've never heard out of any sort of nylon.
So all of a sudden you're going, oh my God, is it going to stay together? And also I have whiplash now.
Explodes. But the problem was, or I guess one of the many problems at this point, is that since the glider had impacted it, it then went between the risers and then opened up. So now I've got my Paraglide risers and my reserve risers twisted. So now my Paraglide riser is coming behind my head and is pushing my head down, so I can't actually look at my glider. But I did gather from my slower descent that I was, in fact, under a reserve. And so I immediately, without being able to see the glider, I reached up for lines, and I just grabbed the first line I could. And the first thing I did was I pulled on it, and I got my foot around it, and I pulled in using my foot. And it was my stabilo line. And right then I took a little bit of pressure off of the risers, and it allowed me to see the glider. And I had reeled in maybe 8 feet of the stabilo, and it was doing nothing. It was just bananaing the glider. It was just bananaing the glider ever so slightly. And I'm in just like a full down plane at this point. The glider's fully inflated out in front of me.
Are you over
got a million lines. I'm over dirt. Yeah, I'm over dirt.
Well, of course, because that's the logical place to be. You know, super smart.
Yeah, I mean, you fly with 2 reserves, and you're like, we'll get into that. But we're almost
There's
there.
more.
We're almost to the lessons, dude. We're almost to the lessons. We got to get past impact first, though. So at that point, I let go of the stabilo and the glider unbananaed, and I just reached up and I grabbed onto the A lines and I reefed in on the A's, and I had it and I reeled in and reeled in and reeled in. And then I was getting closer to the ground and I was conscious of where I was. And I kind of decided at some point that more glider out there like was okay, because it was actually in a configuration that it was like above me and it wasn't like downplaning too much. So I kind of like kept it without reeling the glider into me all the way. I had depowered the A's, so it was kind of like working as a parachute. So I decided to leave it where it was and I just held on to it. And I basically just, obviously the wind was really strong at Pine Mountain, since the glass off was strong enough for me to be specced out doing acro. And so my impact was actually had a lot of horizontal momentum, which in a certain situation is really bad, but in other situations is really good. And in this one, it was really good. Like if you imagine just like jumping off of an object and just piling straight into the ground, like
right.
It's just not very good. But with a lot of horizontal momentum, you end up just like kind of like PLFing and flailing. And I essentially, I'm a skydiver and used to have kind of a hobby when I was like 12 years old of jumping into trees and out of trees and being like the crazy idiot kid. And so like crashing into the ground is something I'm super good at. And so I kind of just like crashed into a bush and did like a flip over it. And I just like laid there for a second and I kind of did a little self-assessment. The next thing I did was I grabbed my radio and I said, I am okay. And then I stood up and I looked at my whole mess of lines, and right there in my paraglider lines, I could see my deployment bag or my reserve container was stuck in my lines. So I didn't have to look for that at all, which I guess is a plus.
That's good.
And, but yeah, like realistically, where I had chosen to do acro that day, like I had perfectly picked the box. Like I had always established the box. Like anytime you're going to do acro, your box decision is really important. Where you're going to decide to do acro. Whenever you do acro, you essentially admit to throwing your reserve or being in a position where you would throw your reserve.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Where I am in acro. That's how I do acro.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that day I had picked my box and I had essentially hit the bullseye on my box decision. I had landed 40 feet outside of the parking lot in the sagebrush. So like if I needed a rescue, like the cars can drive right to me. So the guys that were on the ground, they didn't know that I had thrown my reserve until the bomb of the reserve went off. So no one really saw the line twist or the fight or the entanglement with the reserve and the glider, but once the explosion of the round happened, then they looked up and saw, oh, Aries under a reserve. And I had my friend Chip. He came out. He said, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think I'm totally fine. Will you take a picture of me?" And so I just got out of my harness and I just walked over to the big mess of lines that was the glider and the reserve laying in the ground, and I just gave him one of these and had him take a picture of me. And I took my reserve and I stuffed it into my backpack of my harness and I kited up the hill and I launched again and I flew down to the car and yeah, I lived to do acro another day. But I definitely learned that day that, a helicopter it's a very advanced maneuver. It's a very advanced maneuver, and it's like of all of the things, like I would even allow myself to do like dynamic sats and dynamic full stalls and a lot of different acro maneuvers I would do in a more vulnerable position than a helicopter. A helicopter being in a deep stall and having one side negative and allowing so much rotational energy into the system, it's a very finicky thing. And so it's not that I didn't have respect for it, but I got even more respect for it that day. And that was on a Freestyle 3, which is actually not a very easy glider to be learning acrobatics on. And
that's a pushy glider, man. It's a really pushy glider.
Yeah, it's
what
tough.
size were you flying?
That was a 22.
What do you weigh?
I'm about just under 180 pounds and 2 reserves on the Acro 3. So
that's
I had a 20 before that. And the 22 is what I learned all my stalls, all the Acro on. But now I'm on the Blackout Plus, and the thing is just it's probably 3 times easier. And a lot
it's a super dialed wing, man. I love that wing.
And I've done a lot of helis on that thing. So definitely, you know, as you learn your box allowments, like where you will allow yourself to do a helicopter and how high and those kind of things, it changes. And, you know, as it should, as you understand the system a little bit better. But yeah, that was the only time I've thrown my reserve. The only time I've actually even seriously considered it. I did consider it one time in Morocco, but I was really low to the ground. And I figured it was a bad idea, so I just stuck with flying the glider, and I ended up swooping the wildflowers on the mountain about 3 feet off the ground. And that's actually a story. That's actually a story I wrote an article for XE Mag last year for.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, where do you live, man?
I live in Bend, Oregon.
Okay, right on. Awesome. We actually have a couple students from Washington in the class right now, so that's really, really wicked.
Cool.
So we're at the halfway mark. I want to do just a quick shout out, all the Patreon supporters, all the guys that support the show financially. Really appreciate all of your investment. We're episode 51 tonight. Just blows my mind where we've come from, and it's just so fun. And every Thursday I get excited. It's one notch below actually flying. So I love it. If you want to support the show on Patreon, you can do that. There's a link in the description. I also want to encourage you. There's a way that you can support the show on PayPal as well. And there special shout out to Atheon in the chat. He sent a nice Christmas gift, and he just sent it to me in the mail. I thought that was super cool, and it just makes it legitimate that I tell my wife, you know, while she's in there watching the kids. Every Thursday night for a couple of hours. And so,
or if Woody's on 17 hours, you know, it depends.
Yeah, dude. And by the way, Woody still has not paid his cuss money. And
hey, you do realize that I paid for 7 months. I went from $1 to $10. I changed the rate, and I paid it for 7 straight months for one word.
Yeah,
one word. I made sure it was 7 months. I felt like it was righteous to make it 7 months. And it wasn't even like it was a PG-13 word. It wasn't even a rated R word.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm just trying to make Woody feel more guilty. I'm sorry.
Yeah, since he can't be here, I'll go remind him about that later.
Thank you very much, Ross.
Yeah. Ross is going to actually go there because what Ross will do is Ross will actually just show up. He's kind of like the hitman for the show. You guys don't know that, but
I know that.
Well, that's what I did to Eric a couple days ago. So.
It's true.
Yeah.
I was very afraid. He showed up. He's like, "Hi, I'm good to see you again." I'm like, "What the hell did I do wrong?" That's actually a biblical word. You can't get me on that one.
No, I can't. That's right. Right. Yeah. So, got to pay your dues. Otherwise, Ross will come to your house and he will stand behind you. So, the other thing that I want to mention is that our show is sponsored by. We have one sponsor right now, and they're invested in the show. They invested financially into the show, and we've established this very low bar of what that is because we have, you know, just a small audience, but now we're starting to creep up. We're starting to get an audience. And so if you're interested in selling your products or advertising, please reach out to me. You can do that at paraglidingtalk.com on the website. And there's a link there and you can get a hold of me. And if you're interested, maybe you want to share something that, you want everybody who's in the paragliding world to know, you're welcome to reach out to me in that, and we will put it. Our sponsor is Para-Orange Products.
Para-Orange Products, awesome, man.
And they are awesome. And Larry's normally with us to answer all of our questions, but I
love Larry. He's amazing.
Yeah, Larry's a champ. But he had to get some oral surgery this afternoon, so he wasn't going to do any talking. He's probably knocked out.
I do want to point out, by the way, we're in front of 50 million people live with Paradigm. 50 million, with 1 million people following us on social media, and we don't have a sponsor. So Paragliding Talk is beating the snot out of Paradigm right now, all right?
Yeah, your sponsor is going to have to pay a little bit more than I think Larry is paying.
Hey, we'll take what we can get at this point. We don't have a Patreon. I don't know.
That's how I feel though each week. Okay, there was something else. Oh, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget because I knew I would forget.
That's a good pass.
You need to go. You need to go. Oh gosh, what did I do?
Ross is on his way somewhere to hit somebody.
Oh.
Hey, Ross. Hey, why not? It was getting lonely out in the van.
We're getting double audio now. It's
double
terrible.
audio. Awesome. So.
I'll figure out how to do this in a second here.
You thought I was joking.
Fantastic.
You have to go if you haven't. By the way, there's a whole bunch of people watching live right now. What are we at? 65 people watching live. Go into the chat or go into the description and make sure that you follow Airy in the Air. His channel is epic, and he's got more than just paragliding. He's got some acro. He's got some. I mean, it's a really good channel. And when I clicked on his first video, I don't know how it happened, and you can thank YouTube because YouTube just kind of threw it at me. But when I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's channel is amazing. And I was like, how many subscribers do you have? And he only has like 100 subscribers. And I'm like, no way, this guy's channel is incredible. So
we're just 3 weeks in, buddy. We're just 3 weeks in.
I know, 3 weeks in, but the videos are incredible. And so anyways, not only that, he knows all the acro people, and he's, way up there on like the cool scale for acro stuff. And anyways, I just sent him an email and I'm like, hey bro, would you come on the show? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And I gave him one date and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll come on. And so please subscribe to his story.
Homeboy can tell his story for real though.
Yeah, I know.
I've already
on his channel. Go listen to some of the stories on the channel. Okay. ParaOrangeProducts.com. Go there, check that out. That's for the sponsorship. And I want to give something away tonight real quick. Paragliding sticker, paragliding talk sticker. And I'll just send that in the mail to you. Maybe something else in there. This will be for the best comment, and we'll decide at the end of the show who the best, what the best comment is. And Sean is going to have to decide. Sean's in the chat, but he's going to have to decide who that is. Okay. My next question. Next question. I'm looking at the sponsor page. What trick is it that you're working on right now that you feel needs the most work, and that's your kind of go-to right now, what you're doing, your acro?
Well, I think what I'm excited to be working on right now is into tumbling.
Infinite tumble?
Yeah, I've been working on some rhythmic sats. That's kind of what I was training in Lake Garda. I learned misty flip to heli, and then I started doing some rhythmic sats. And since I've been back, I've been doing some dynamic sats and working on the rhythmic. That's what I'm excited to be working on. I'm excited to have infinite in my bag so that I can just whip it out.
Dude. So have you gone over end?
No, the highest I've gone, I've only gone like maybe 2 good pumps into it, and I've like maybe gone just nearly over the stabilo. And I think the highest I've gone is on a dynamic sat, which is a really, really fun trick. It's so much fun. It feels, dude, that's like skiing. It's like the timing and energy release that you get when you go off a really big jump on skis and you do like a double backflip or a cork 9 or something like that, where you really get to like chuck it. You put a lot of energy into the system off the lip. That's kind of like a dynamic sat or like a Mac twist or a misty flip. Those are the kind of maneuvers that remind me of skiing. And I think that that's kind of what I'm excited to go towards. But to think about going dynamic sat with enough energy that it just goes right over the top, and then you just let go and you're like, poo-poo, look I did it. Ha, tumbling. And it actually, like, hearing from all of the acro pilots that were excited for me that I went the route of negative and helicopters and deep stall, all that stuff before I did infinite. Makes me feel good about that. I guess it wasn't a choice I made. I just wanted to do helicopters, so I learned that first. But the dynamic sat and tumbling has high consequence, but is relatively easy, and it's pretty committing and scary, but it's not that finicky of a trick.
Bro, that's so wild.
Yeah, I can't wait till I can just tumble on command.
I'm not supposed to tell anyone this, but I did an infinite tumble.
Oh yeah, I watched the video. I loved it. I love the video.
The video was awesome.
From it.
I had to take it out. I had to take it down.
Max is such a stud. He's like shout out to Max for holding it down for us Americans.
Serious, bro. Did you see him push my head through the
Yeah. He's like, not quite far enough, buddy. A little further. You can go a little further. It's funny because people like it doesn't like I was in Italy and they're like, oh, are there American acro pilots? I was like, oh, you didn't know Max Marion held the record? He broke it from what it was like 80 and then he did 350.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Come on, guys.
Broke. And it got broke again. Somebody's
by Vesso. Vesso jumped out at 16.5 and did like 580 or something.
I think it was Horacio just broke it jumping out at 23, and we're working on breaking it with David. We're looking at 1,000. So
I saw that video.
We had an issue with extra weight, but we should be able to hit 1,200 realistically. He's going for 1,000. I believe in him. It's going to be 1,200. It's going to happen.
Yeah, you won't see me doing that. Like,
Come on, bro. Just work out a little more. You got this. Pointless. Less hair, more workout. You got this.
Oh my god, it just doesn't look like any fun. I just want to do one. I just want to do like I'd really like to do the, what is it, like the cowboy and the Joker, where you just like do one tumble and you stop it into a helicopter. Like that is the essence of being super in control of your glider, going from as much energy as it can take to a nuanced negative on one side, positive on the other, balance. Like that's it.
And throwing into a corkscrew and just having it over the top, kick back around.
Yeah, exactly. A cork reverse is much more in my goals than 1,000 tumbles.
Did you see Theo's new video today?
Just tumbling from a straight flight.
Yes, I mean, dude, I get this super soul to tumble.
What has happened in the world, man?
To tumble, like seriously, right now, like. So one of our
I thought he was pulling on the speed bar first. I thought he would be pulling on the speed bar. He doesn't even have it connected.
No, it's straight flight to tumble, and it's mind you, it's an agility 11, which means
I would love to fly one of those.
I wouldn't, dude. I fly a 16. I'm 190 pounds, 195 pounds, flying a 90-pound motor all up, and I fly a 60-meter free ride, and an agility 11 terrifies me. I flew a Rapido, a 10.5, and that was fun. An agility 11 terrifies me, like literally terrifies me.
It's pretty sick.
Was that the video that was going around on Facebook, the blue glider?
Yeah, the super stall to infinite. Now it's the straight line to infinite, just because he can. Because Theo trains Kyle, and he's actually going back over, I think, this spring to go back over and train more. And like I watched him fly at Picard in September, and the way this guy flies is just. It's so much more dynamic and interesting than anything I've ever done. It is intense. It is deeply sexual in the most wonderful way possible.
How do you do that though? He just and he's in an infinite.
No, he literally had sex with it. It's the only thing that makes sense. Like he is one with that glider.
That glider's going really fast, man. It's going really fast. And who was it that said Da Vinci said that if people saw how much time he put into it, then his mastery would be much less magical. And that's exactly with Theo de Blick. If you can even imagine how good you are at catching your jacket as it comes off of your arm, how many times you've dressed and undressed yourself, that's as many times as he has stalled his glider.
You have to realize the guy grew up. He grew up right there on the mountain, He hikes 1,500 feet vertical every morning. Not like every day or every week. Every morning he hikes 1,500 to 3,000 feet vertical to launch on the high launch, top land, and then launch again. And then he hikes back up 4,000 feet vertical back home every single morning. They say 10,000 hours makes you an expert. This man has had way more than that. Right? It's literally it's in their high school curriculum to have a paragliding course. It's a whole different level. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's a beautiful place, man. So it's incredible, and
Are
to
you
grow
serious?
up there.
Hold on, it's an elective.
It's an elective. It's just like in San Clemente, California, you can join the surfing club, right? Same exact idea, but they have paragliding as a course in high school.
I am super jealous right now.
Yeah, me too.
That is incredible. Wow. What's your next big adventure? You're talking cross-country stuff.
Yeah. In January, I'll go to Mexico and go do some cross-country flying. I'm actually going to do a massive road trip. I'll fly into Aguascalientes. Until earlier this year, I was married to a Mexican woman for 9 years. So I've been to Mexico about 25 times and have guided paraglide tours there. And
¿Se habla español?
Sí. Claro.
Sí, muy bueno.
And we'll go do a huge road trip all the way down to Chiapas. We'll go to Fortín de los Flores, which is in Veracruz. It's on the Gulf side. There's big volcanoes over there and some great cross-country flying. And then we'll go all the way down near Guatemala to Chiapas to what is one of the biggest fly-ins in Mexico. February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, there's a fly-in in Chiapas that we'll be at. And
is that crazy launch where they have the video where all the people are just like one after another, just gnarly launches? The green.
I'm not sure. Okay. Most of the launches down there, right? You get that close to the equator, and all the launches are pretty lawn-like.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go do a big road trip down there, and
that's just gonna be sight flying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you shared a video that sucked me in right away, and you flew through some pretty gnarly terrain. That was in Washington, I assume.
That was in Washington State, yeah.
And incredible. If you haven't seen that video, go check out. Oh my gosh.
Just mind-boggling. Yeah, I launched from Tumwater Mountain there in Leavenworth, Washington on August 6th, which is pretty prime time if you want to get boosted. Pretty prime time, and it was really, really eye-opening flight.
And it didn't look ratty. It looked like smooth and fun for the most part.
No, it was really good. The climbs were really strong, and they were going really tall. I got to 14,000 feet that day, and I just made some decisions that I learned a lot from, and I just, to fly really far, like to fly really fast and far, like I'm realizing that you actually have to like push it. You have to like let yourself go downwind, and you have to let yourself go in the lee sometimes. But I was by myself, and I didn't need to be flying as fast as I was right in that moment, and let myself kind of go downwind on the side of Mount Stewart, the biggest mountain in the range, and end up in the total lee with not very good landing options. And when I say not very good, I mean like no landing options, and so far into the backcountry, and didn't have my spot on, and hadn't looked at any maps, and didn't know where I was going to fly. So no one knew where I was, and I didn't really know where I was.
But he had the camera going.
But I had my GoPro, and so I brought the lessons back for everyone else. But ended up flying all the way back to Leavenworth, Washington. Flew 140 kilometers, 4 hours and 15 minutes, and
wow,
had a really great flight. I was on just a mid-B, U-turn Blacklight 2, a really safe glider.
Yep, very good wing.
A lot of glide, flying 10K over the top of it, so it's got a lot of speed and really responsive and super nice. And yeah, it was really great. So I'm looking forward to doing this summer. I'd like to go to Chelan, and I think I'd like to start flying some comps and do the nationals and get on an E&D glider and throw my reserve and all the good stuff,
I mean, really though, if you look at it in the U.S., there are some incredible pilots, but very few compete, and most of them are old and married like me. So freaking do it, man. Get out there and
yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I've actually, one of my first big cross country experiences was in Valle during the Monarca Super Final. That was the World Championship Super Final, and I was over in a thermal on the G spot. If you've ever flown at Valle, of course you know the G spot. And I was in a climb, and I just saw the horde of butterflies coming towards me. And soon enough, I was marking the thermal for them, and so the entire gaggle just is beelining it straight towards me. Soon enough, I'm engulfed. Soon enough, this Chinese pilot lets his glider touch my glider, which I was not super happy about. But it just seems really fun. I'd love to do some racing and go fast, and it's so much easier when there's a bunch of pilots in the sky. It's not a guessing game. You're like, oh, look, that guy's going down, that guy's going up. What's the choice? It's not even a choice anymore. You're just like, there it is.
That's my favorite. I hate, so I'm a motor pilot by nature because I live in Florida, which is, hell on earth for a paraglider pilot unless you have a tow machine, which I have one, but I don't have an operator consistently enough. So I motor thermal a lot, and it's really fun to motor thermal solo, but it's magic to motor thermal with a half dozen of your buddies, because then it's like, oh, look, there's lift, like there's lift over there, there's lift over there. Oh, that guy's going down. And of course, with the motor, we have 3 to 4 points of glide off because of the extra drag. Yeah, but we have that magic button. And we restart and we go back up again. And my best flight's over 8 hours. Of course, it was on Mother's Day, which my wife's sitting across the room from me right now. She would tell you that it was on Mother's Day, and I
wait, what?
Oh, you don't understand. My trend right now with Mother's Day, birthdays, and anniversaries is so bad. She just said it was still better than the next year. What was the next year? What did I do the next year? Oh, and the next year I flew across the United States with another woman in a small airplane. The following year we were at the fly-in. Then this next anniversary, which is our 10th anniversary of our first date coming up next week, I'll be in the Bahamas. So my wife is
You're really selling yourself, buddy. You're really selling yourself.
We don't worry about dates so much. I don't worry about dates so much. But that was the best flight ever. 8 hours in the air with a
She's
butt
right
fan.
there.
I ran it for 8 minutes. No, hang on. Let me show you the whole room. Let's see. There's a whole gaggle.
Oh my gosh. You're in such huge trouble right now.
Jeez.
And you're on the show. They're there to hang out with you, and you're on the show.
They're our neighbors. They're wonderful. We love them. And I was told I had to get on the show by a very dear friend. They said, listen, things are happening. People are talking about Aviator. You have to get on the show. So I said, sir, yes, sir. Thank you, John.
Give me the quick rundown. And what? So you guys switched up a little bit?
Yeah, I don't want to. I know we're 2 minutes from the end of the show technically, so I guess I can go for like 3 minutes straight. So crazy.
Great. Well, let's close on a high note.
Yeah. Versus like downplaning into the ground, scaring the heck out of me. That story was scary, dude. Like seriously. Like, it was a really good downplane, I swear. And I'm like, oh my god, he didn't die. But you're talking to a guy who's broken his back twice. I have no room to talk. Like none, zero, absolutely none. Only once in the paramotor though. Everything else is airplanes. Everything's fine. I promise. But no. So just to answer the people in the chat who've been asking all the questions, for the last 3 years, we sold Air Conception because awesome brand, great motors, super light, fantastic. We sold a whole bunch of them. We were able to build it out. At one point, we had 10 franchise schools. Now we have 5 because we were able to cut back and really focus on the ones that were striving the best and trying to keep up with the same level of service that we do. And then over the last 3 years, we've been trying to increase the production because our students were waiting 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, then 16 weeks for motors. You guys have probably seen it out there. We had one guy wait 11 months for a motor that he thought he was going to wait 6 weeks for because we thought he was going to wait 4. And so we decided to add another brand so we could support people and make sure that everyone had a successful experience. And sadly, it didn't work out as we'd hoped. Basically, Air Conception got pretty unhappy with the idea. And so we said, okay, totally understand. And so we stopped being exclusive with them. We added Parajet as well. So we have Fly Products and Parajet and Air Conception on the back end. The questions everyone's asking are will you still support your Air Conception customers? The answer is absolutely yes. Service has always been 100% the number one priority for our brand. We take care of our customers. If you ask anybody, you can ask Ross behind you. Half of his warranty claims were covered out of our pocket instead of the manufacturers because it didn't make logical sense that they broke the way they did. And so we serve those people, and that may be an infactual number, but close. So that's what we always have done, always will do. And so don't worry about if you have an air conception, don't worry about it. If you want to buy an air conception, don't worry about it. You're going to find great dealers out there. We don't have any more control over who the dealers are, so we're not exactly sure what it's going to look like. But we're going to do our best to keep serving you guys if you buy it from us. And more than that, like, quite frankly, we needed a lower dollar brand, and Fly Products has that in spades. They have phenomenal budget paramotors, and the only paramotor that scared us the entire time we sold air conception as our primary brand was the Parajet Maverick. It's light, its build quality and finish quality is, in my opinion, it's the best in the business. It's gorgeous. And so by partnering with them and being able to bring that to our alliance partners and to our schools, it's just fantastic. We're really honored. So we're stoked. Long story short, to all the people in the chat that were asking me questions, that I was waiting.
What do you think about, can you guys come on next week?
We can't. Sadly, we can't. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and we take no days off. In fact, tomorrow I'm taking half day off, and that's the first time I've taken a day off in like 6 weeks. So,
gosh,
we're in this big growth period right now where we're doing a lot more stuff. We have a lot of new changes. We're going to make a video next week that'll share. These two brands are literally, these two brand changes, like picking up two brands and losing a brand, is the smallest news we have. There's super cool stuff, and it's not just for our business, it's for the whole sport, because as you guys have seen, and Robert, you know this, like, we're in a position where we actually are able to kind of drive the direction the industry goes, because we have so many great schools that follow what we do and that are using our syllabus now. So we're so stoked.
That's great, man.
We just opened today. We got permission to move into our new facilities. We have this massive new hangar to be able to service more motors. We've hired a whole bunch of new people. We've got this incredible opportunity to be able to serve more people, and for us, that's what it's all about. We're trying to serve the industry and try to get more people flying, because when you fly, it makes your life better and it changes your life forever. So that's what we do.
That's great, man. Well, I'll reach out to you again, and we'll try to set up a show where we can do have everybody on again like we did that one time. That'd be great.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the other fun things too is we're coming out with a show too, so it won't compete with yours, I promise. Not Thursday nights. It'll be earlier in the day, because if I do this late every night, my wife will kill me. But we're gonna have our own show, and it's gonna be professionally produced, and I think you're gonna have a lot of fun. We want you as a guest as well. So
nice. Awesome, man.
Sorry, it was 4 minutes, man. I'm sorry, I ruined your show.
he has to go. He literally has to go. He told me ahead of the show that he needed to keep it in that 1 hour mark. So
yeah, I've got like 5 or 10 minutes here.
Okay, awesome. So yes, that's crazy about
Robert's
what's
wordless. It's amazing. He's wordless.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. You need to loosen up your schedule.
I would love to. My wife would love for me to loosen up my schedule also, and that's why we're hiring more people, and why we are redefining how we teach and redefining a lot of things. We've got a lot of new opportunities. So people who've been saying, "Oh my gosh, I want to train an aviator," or one of their schools, but their wait list is too long. Guess what? No more wait list.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new game.
I read a funny comment right when you said that. So sorry, I wasn't laughing. I was laughing at
it's okay if you laugh at me. I'm used to it. It's all good.
No, I want to go to paramotor school. Let's put me through paramotor school.
Dude,
I just did it.
Tell you seriously, bro. As an acro pilot, especially. So like, Kyle's one of our instructors. He was a paramotor pilot first. Went to Organia, trained with Javi Matagita, and then trained with Theo this past year. And he uses the motor exactly the way you would using a tow. He flies every morning for 25 to 35 minutes. Goes to 3,000 feet 4 times. Runs acro up and down. That's it. All he does is go up and heli, go up and heli, go up and misty, go up and tumble, go up. He's almost the infinite now. He's ready to go over the top. He's just holding off until he's over water. So like, use a motor. Yes, there are more dangers with it, but if you're running 3 reserves like he is, it's worth it.
Okay, we have to give away the winner of the paraglidingtalk.com sticker is Todd Scandrett. He has the best comment. The comment said, "I want to be Ross's side chick." Okay.
Only because he cuddles so well.
Only because he cuddles. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a small van. So that pretty much is it. I did have 2 other questions, and these are quick, easy ones. One is something you won't fly without. Something that maybe, some guys, it's like variometer. You obviously are not afraid to fly without the spot.
Things
What
that
won't
fly
you?
without.
Yeah, something that you're like, you know what? I need that. I got to have that with me.
Honestly, I think the only thing that I won't fly without is shoes. There's some people that like even at the beach they'll fly barefooted. I don't fly barefooted.
You see Max?
Yeah,
Max
well, I
is
just like
posted
I stuck my, I've stepped in sticks and sharp rocks while I'm in the sand. So I'm like, no more of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go helmetless, but I'll never go without my shoes.
I agree, bro. And I'm like my feet barely come out of the shoes. Even
Yeah, I
at
got
home.
white boy feet anyways. Like
Me
the whole
too.
continent of Africa laughs at the bottom of my feet.
No, I could never do it.
Yeah. Well, I got the whitest legs, bro. I think we might be brothers, actually. So
I think you're substantially whiter than I am. Actually, I'm pretty white, but I think you're whiter than I am.
I'm super pasty. Yeah. Milk. The other question is, I'm actually clear. Advice to the aspiring acro pilot.
The advice to the aspiring acro pilot. I would say that my advice to the aspiring acro pilot would be to understand that acro is more about restraint than it is about maneuvers. It's more about knowing when and where and why and having the right motivations and not be showing off and knowing what it's like to throw your reserve and imagining those systems and those situations before they come and trying to actually protect yourself, because no one will protect you. People will try to chastise you, but they actually won't protect you. So yeah, understanding that acro is more about restraint than it is about maneuvers.
Love it. I don't want to hold you hostage. Yeah, well said.
Well said.
Will you come back on the show again?
Yes, I will.
Yes.
How about tomorrow? How about tomorrow at 6 a.m., 6:05 p.m.? Why don't we do every single day, Ari? Like, you don't understand. This is a commitment. You're part of the group now. You're going to get the invites. We need you here every day. Is that deal?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to keep you guys talking about paragliding.
Come on, man. Paramotor's the future.
Yeah.
No, you can only say the word wife once a show.
Yeah. Have you seen the shirt? It says
if you say it twice, your wife takes your spot on the show.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me on, man. That was really fun.
We're going to have a short after show. And so thank you. Make sure you go subscribe to Airy in the Air on YouTube. You need it in your life. And go to paraglidingtalk.com to find the next episodes that are coming up and all the previous episodes. And don't forget to support your local paragliding talk show by donating on the Patreon and PayPal. Thanks. Yeah. So glad that you're here. Eric, thanks for coming on. Thanks for all the moderators, all the people in the chat.
Thanks, Eric. We'll be in touch. I'm gonna come to a paramotor school. We're gonna throw it down.
Dude, Costa Rica, we got an Alliance school down there, full franchise. Awesome. Well, not really a franchise, an Alliance affiliate. Incredible place to fly, free fly and motor, and you can get high enough to do acro. They have an acro throwdown in February for some of the best acro pilots in the world coming in. So go there.
Nice, man. All right, guys. Take care.
Twice.
See you guys.
All right, guys.
Later.